Yeah.
Usually comes over to the speakers and says that it's recording. Oh. Muted.
Not yet. I may have jumped the gun on the.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I thought.
Sounds like services are about to start or something. And the front row's almost all empty.
All right, Lindsay, I got you down again.
That's all right. I got you.
Know what I have. I had to leave meetings. Okay. I think I'm good. You guys ready?
Ready.
You guys ready? Let's go. All right, we'll go ahead and call our Thursday, December 15th, 2022 meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Riva. Here. Cool.
Here.
Livingston. Here. Mayor Tom Phillips.
I'm here. We have quorum, so we'll move on. Item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. Would you please rise and say the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Find my cursor. Next item is approval of the agenda. We're gonna move consent agenda items M, N, and O to the regular agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the other consent agenda items to the regular agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Riva. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4. We have a presentation tonight. Chief Porter's gonna, well, Dr. Newland's been with the city for a long time. And she is no longer, and we would like to recognize her for her service.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. As you may remember, a couple of months ago, we appointed a new medical director, Dr. Jeanette, after we received the resignation of Dr. Newland. She has given to our agency for 16 years. She came on at a time where it was a little unstable in the fire department under Chief Cool. So we wanted to take an opportunity to thank her for the time that she gave to us and to recognize her leadership through our organization. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Dr. Newland?
No, I would just like to say what an honor it has been to serve as medical director, and what an incredible team that we have under Jen's leadership. And I just so proud of how far we've come, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Yeah. Well, thank you
So
for your
thank you.
service.
We have a plaque that we would like to present to her. Says to Dr. Patricia Newland, Medical Director and Appreciation, 16 years of service. So here's that for you. Thank you. And mind, we'd like to take a quick photo with the member of the fire department, the mayor, and Dr. Newland. Is that okay?
I know.
Wide land.
As in the aisles, my hip.
Yeah, that was picture critical. If we hadn't had her, we'd have been. So screwed.
This one. Hi.
There's a young doctor that had transferred out. Wait, really, yeah, really good job. She did a good job. But yeah.
All right. Okay, item number 5 is a dedicated work session for mayor and council. It's not going to last 1 hour. We'll just move right into the council meeting right after this work session. We're going to talk about the airport navigation easement tonight. Luke Pierce, and we have some representatives from the Des Moines Airport here. Come on up and introduce yourselves. We know who Luke is.
I get my name and address.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thanks for having us. Clint Torp, I'm the Director of Operations for the Des Moines International Airport. And have Kevin Foley, Executive Director.
Kevin's been around.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so. Well,
So I'm gonna run through a few things here just on the city side of things, give you guys a little bit of background. And then Clint and Kevin are gonna run into some of the stuff that they're requesting of the city. So this all kind of came out about, city's been doing our comprehensive plan, looking at land uses. We've had some development proposals occasionally that have popped up in the area of the airport approach zone over the last few years. And Clint reached out earlier in the year saying, hey, we'd like the city to consider navigation and noise easements in approach zone areas. And so we've talked, we met with Jim, he provided us a lot of background on city's previous agreements with the airport. So unfortunately, he's not here tonight to expand upon that, but we do have some agreements. I think Clint can talk a little bit about that as well. But so I just want to give you a background of what we currently have in the city for navigation easements, what they really are, and then kind of help you understand what we currently do, and then turn it over to Clint and Kevin, and they can run through their stuff. So again, just hit real quick on what is the easement, talk about our current city regulations and the current applicable area, hit on some of the current city plans and kind of how we incorporated that, and we'll turn it over to the airport. So navigation easements, that's a weird term. It's defined in our zoning ordinance actually, and it specifically talks about in the zoning ordinance. Sorry. It's an easement that we grant to the Des Moines International Airport in our zoning ordinance. And all aircraft landing at the airport to use airspace above certain property and to emit noise associated with its operations. So it's really talking about the noise and the impact of aircraft operating over top of a piece of property. So really the purpose of that is to formally acknowledge that that operation is happening. So it's typically concentrated on areas of large noise areas. So that comes to our current regulations. We have a airport hazard and overlay zoning district. So, we've got commercial districts, residential districts and stuff. And then there's a whole section of the zoning code that's about overlay districts. Overlay districts sit on top of our current zoning and provide additional regulations. We usually only run into that with floodplains. And then we have a special section on airport hazard. And that's focused again on that approach zone. It kind of covers the area approach zone. I got a map here in a minute, but it's west of or east of 50th. South of Highway 5. You think about where that runway aligns, and so that's where people are taking off and landing. Our ordinance right now does require a noise navigation easement for development in areas that are 65 decibel and higher, and also within the approach zone. So we do require something. You'll see on the next slide, it's a very small area. So functionally, we have it, we require it right now in our zoning ordinance, but I don't ever see it actually being applied just because of where the area is at. So here you can see on this map, the green kind of going around the airport runway is called the 65 DNL. That's the area of 65 decibel or higher. And so that area that I kind of circled in red, there's a little bit of green that's right underneath the lettering, unfortunately, that is in basically the Highway 5 right of way. So our zoning ordinance is telling us in area, if development occurred in that area, we would require a navigation easement and a noise and navigation easement. Outside of that area, our ordinance is not saying we should require that. We do have some additional restrictions on things based on not this type of stuff. It's just other airport hazard overlay things that we require some additional things to happen, but requiring that easement is only in those areas. So as part of all these meetings, we, trying to do prudent planning and understand that we're part of the bigger system and that we've, got our neighbor to the north that's the airport and wanting to make sure that our land uses match with what some of they're showing and stuff. We took a look at our land use map with them and made some changes and tried to get land uses that would be more appropriate in that airport approach zone. So in past land use planning, we had that identified as a sub area that could be a mix of residential and stuff and commercial and all that. And so on our new land use plan, we've been more deliberate in talking about this is commercial along the north side of that county line road extension, commercial on the 50th corridor. And then there's one kind of pocket of medium density residential. Just, you know, you've got to get good land use transitions in things. So trying to balance the fact that it's in the approach zone versus the actual land use that's happening underneath. We felt like putting medium density in that one section was a reasonable approach. So we made those changes in the most recent comprehensive plan that you all approved in November. To try to acknowledge some of that from the report as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Clint now. I think he's got a presentation to run through as well. And he can talk a little bit about aviation easements in a little more detail and what we're thinking we might be able to do further with that.
Right.
Get yours started.
Oh, thank you. All right, I get through this pretty quick. So the airport authority has become aware of several developments that were potentially proposed within the areas referred to. And that's what kind of triggered the conversation. Hey, you know, let's get ahead of this situation before we start seeing all this development come in that might result in complaints and issues and maybe even safety concerns down the road. So we did do a review of the Norwalk City Code, and that was the section 175C. And there was that existing limitation that noted development occur without implementation of a noise navigation easement. But because of the way the language is written, it resulted in that very small sliver along the interstate that would actually be subject to the ordinance. Again, there's that map kind of zoomed in a little bit more, but you kind of see just right along the interstate there, just north of that North Shore developed area. So I have the section of your code up on the screen there. Our proposal from the airport is to make a slight adjustment to the code to insert the first 10,000 feet of the approach zone, which if I go back is that trapezoidal shape that's coming off the end of the runway. And I zooming out there, you can kind of see how that goes out past the North Shore PUD to the southwest area. And then remove the language and within areas of more than 65 dBA. It's that piece that's prohibiting navigation easements from extending further down into the trapezoidal area. The purpose of the navigation easement in our case is twofold. One, it makes people aware that there's going to be potential noise in this particular area. Obviously, we're very sensitive to our neighbors, trying to ensure that we're being good neighbors and avoiding noise issues. There's an agreement from the 90s with the city of Norwalk and the city of Des Moines, which is now the Des Moines Airport Authority, which in which case the airport voluntarily provides a letter of agreement with Air Traffic Control Tower to navigate aircraft away from Norwalk. I think that agreement's worked out well over the years. You know, we've had little hiccups here and there, but address them as good neighbors, and we just want to make sure that we continue that moving forward by including these other areas. And within your ordinance, it does cover only certain types of development, so residential dwellings, hotels, motels, schools, hospitals. There's a theme there, and that's just places that have concentrations of people that are going to be noise sensitive, right? So that's really what the driver is. Kevin, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I'll introduce myself, Kevin Foley, Executive Director of the airport. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council for the opportunity to present here. But as Clint said, we've had the agreement, it's worked well. But as Norwalk looks at developing, we are concerned about the future and just trying to avoid any issues that might come up if the navigation instance is there. Anyone that would construct in that area would know that you're building over or under an approach area. So, and again, thank you. I do have a question. Will the jets will still continue after takeoff? They will continue before they take an immediate left to go south?
They will, yeah, and actually I have a kind of a point kind of drawn on here trying to show where that generally occurs at.
We know not all jets follow that like they're supposed to.
Correct. Yeah,
At least they try once.
yeah, the air traffic control tower tries to keep on some type of pilots, kind of do their own thing, but rework or that's what we do, signage.
Okay.
And that agreement is they get to 3,000 feet, then they can turn.
Uh,
They can turn.
Yeah, 3,000 or specific radial, which is where it's showing. So
Okay,
yes, if a jet gets to 3,000 before that point, they could start their turn, but generally, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It's about that point when they're.
Or if it's military, they do anything.
That's true. Or that.
All right.
that's all right.
I guess I have a question for Luke. Okay, so the upshot of all this, is there anything that we need to change? Are we in compliance the way we sit today with what they need and what we have?
I don't think so. I mean, again, it's a good time to be talking about all this because we've not had anything built there. We don't have an active project before us that we're trying to figure out, right? So it's a good, pretty time to talk about this in terms of what we're gonna do. So I don't think we need to change anything. If we decide to go forward and then bring back an amendment that did the kind of strike through that Clint identified, I mean, that's, I think, all we would need to do as far as changing our codes.
So my concern with that strike through piece though would be that it's the first 10,000 feet of the approach zone, and I guess. You've got to grab a little piece in there, and I guess I'm a little more concerned that we'd like to find it. Maybe that's why we had the 65 decibels in there before, which doesn't define the area. And maybe, just me saying 10,000 feet is pretty vague.
2 miles.
We could,
It's a long ways.
I'm just saying that is it 10,000 feet this way, that, I mean. I'm just saying this is the non-attorney opinion here. So I'm just telling you that language concerns me a bit. I'm fine with the change. I just want to figure out.
But it's the whole the approach zone, right? 10,000 feet out on the approach zone. So.
Is the
2 miles
approach zone defined somewhere else in our statute?
Like, what are the?
There, we
angles
do
of
have a
the
different definition of the approach zone, which I'm assuming matches what the airport has identified. What I would say to that, David, is back when this section was written and over all the iterations of zoning that it mentions in Exhibit A, that's supposed to be the map of the area. So when we started digging in with this, it was, I had to talk with Clint, like, what are your maps of this? Because it was lost to us in our records, right? So I think, this goes back to that saying there's an Exhibit A that shows the map. Having that in there is crucial. I think we can get that added to the actual document rather than saying Exhibit A. We've got other spots in the code where we show exhibits where it's just a snapshot of that. So we can talk about it as 10,000 feet as shown on Exhibit A. We can very clearly highlight it, and that's what it
Get
is.
the attorneys on board. I'm good with it.
This attorney thinks it's fine.
Perfect.
I'm not the
That was
city
my
attorney, but this
what I
attorney thinks it's fine.
And they wiped out a lot of businesses along Florida. I just don't want that to happen here. I mean, many years ago, I'm old enough now.
So if you could, can you jump back to my slideshow with the, I think the two things that we have going for us here. One, our ordinance requires all that extra work and stuff for, I suppose, hop back to that ordinance real quick. Sorry. I had a thought and then I think I may be contradicting myself on the ordinance. My apologies, I don't have this memorized completely.
So are those lines approximately 10,000 feet length? Is that kind of where the 10,000 is? Where those lines continue to?
The 10,000 is measured from the point out.
Correct. Are those lines approximately the 10,000 range? It's 2 miles.
Is it
I'm
to
guessing
scale?
it's-
Is the map to scale?
Yeah, so the purple section that's 10,000 feet from
All right,
the runway environment to that endpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a visual.
And then it goes, there's a geometry that it goes out, it widens out as it goes. So that's what defines that area.
Is that the 10,000 feet?
Don't drop, so further down, right?
Yeah, this one.
Right.
Right.
Ah, okay.
And what you folks are concerned with is that little coned area under the number 65.
Right, purple, yeah.
Right.
So
So,
They're talking the whole thing yet. Currently, we only cover this.
Here.
oh, so they want, do you want this to go down all the way down that trapezoid then?
So it's.
So the- yep.
It's a graph, but it's what we're talking about. So Luke's drawing.
We should
what-
take a look and see what kind of impact that would be.
And then, right, in theory, would this be the map or something like this that would be attended as the exhibit? Yeah. Seems very clear to me.
And
Um,
does it limit businesses as far as the number of floors, that kind of stuff?
So our airport hazard overlay zoning district already has some limitations that aren't about this application at all.
Okay.
So we do have some of that stuff already built into the zoning. What I wanted to get at was, if you jump back to the land plan, is we would still require an airport aviation easement for a commercial project developing there. We're just acknowledging that that's there. They don't, that section also requires additional building standards. Those standards only kick in for residential dwellings, churches, all the things that Clint mentioned. So because we've changed this to be primarily commercial, I think we're taking the step to try to avoid some of those potential development issues someone might have if they were wanting to go in there. So really the only thing that we'd be, requiring of a new development there that we don't elsewhere in the city is just acknowledgement of this navigation, which we would, I'm assuming we would require at the point of final plating, like we would any other easement document, so.
So there's no special requirements for commercial buildings that go through that area. Other than the sign.
Not as it's related to noise, there is for height and all those things, but again,
Right.
it's a different part of the zoning.
Does that roll through all the way through the cone then, or just part of it?
I'd have to read the definitions of how to, but there's like it's very similar to the 10,000 foot, it's like it may be 10,000 foot actually. There's a defined area that it covers, so.
So I was with you and I thought I knew where the 10,000 feet was. But isn't everything in between the blue line subject then to,
So my blue line is really rough, because I just wanted to
Okay, so
represent
everything
what it
within the-
was on-
the big
on the
purple-
land use map.
everything within the
Yes.
big purple cone? Isn't that what is now going to be subject to that additional noise?
Easement, yes.
Because that's more than 10,000 feet. That's why I'm confused.
No.
This whole cone.
That's 10,000.
Well, it's 10,000 feet
10,000 feet
long,
long?
10,000 feet is not the area,
Oh,
it's length.
it's 10,000 feet long? It looks longer than that. Okay.
Yeah, so right around 2 miles, so 2 miles off the end of the runway.
Never mind, withdraw my question.
Allowed 65 decibels.
It's essentially a conversation like this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the DNL, the way they calculate that, they apply more weight. So it's not a true decibel level, it's a weighted level, and it's taking into account like night noise, because that's when you're gonna be most sensitive.
Okay.
So that number can increase if there's noise at night versus day. Okay.
And to Councilman Baker's point, you could have one event that was 100 decibels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jet, certain. That would constitute a 65 decibel DNL.
Okay.
One event does. There's a smoothing that occurs by the FAA when they calculate this. So.
Okay.
I would think it'd be in the city's interest to at some point define this by our code. To discuss it and define it by our code,
Right,
so that we know the impact of it.
right, isn't the code that's cited, that's our code, and their proposal is to change
Change
it
it.
to 10,000, right,
Changing that code.
right, to this.
And so my only other question is, what else does that affect beyond? I'm fine with it
Right.
being for the noise and all that piece, but the building standards and some other heights and all that, maybe I want.
Yeah, so that's the,
Sure.
so the first area is defining what the area is. And then when you get down to it says development of land within the area, or I'm sorry, construction standards to achieve this degree of sound attenuation provided by the city building code. And, so the residential dwellings shall be constructed with soundproofing to achieve noise level reduction of 25 decibels. So this change would expand that for those residential dwellings.
Maybe that concerns me a little more. That we're adding,
And we could,
we're adding to. When you have some residential in there already and some areas that are. I just look at that and say, questioning that piece of it a little more.
We could,
I'd like to know what the restrictions are on the other side.
and I think back when this was written, I don't know that they were just looking at them as the same. I don't know that there's much reason why we couldn't maybe pull them apart and say navigation easements are required in this thing and the building standards are in this different one. So we could, I think, essentially split that section into two separate topics. That works for the airport, if that works for council. So.
Probably easier to understand that way, I think.
Yeah, so let's take a step back. Why do you want to remove this, the decimal level?
Because that's the restriction that's causing the very small little sliver off the interstate. It's the back end that wording that restricts the navigation easement from extending.
So we don't require navigation easement anywhere beyond that little tiny sliver.
Yeah,
And
by doing this, yeah.
by doing this, we require navigation easements. Nobody can build in that area without getting an easement in place that basically protects the
I got you.
airport. That's, they're wanting to protect the airport from future complaints on noise that are outside of that little tiny area that nobody's gonna build in anyway, so. I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, what they're asking for makes sense. I just want to make sure that if we do it the right way.
Don't want to run into other issues on other code.
So then this is something that you would make the changes to and come
Yeah, so
back and
if we be doing a zoning hearing. and all that
resolve it
stuff.
another time.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
This is just more information and
Yeah,
feedback.
let you know, get some feedback from you, so then we can have some direction on, because I think, again, Jim's not here tonight, but, I think he would have some statements of his concern anytime the city is obligating a property owner to do something. So, that's something that is a change, right? Like you're putting an additional obligation on all that property, that currently it doesn't have.
Right.
Right, but this isn't like it's a unique thing. It's true at every airport for every surrounding area, right? It's not like we're breaking some mold here.
I don't believe so.
No.
I looked at our report, folks.
It's very common. It's
Notice
like
to a new purchaser.
we don't want to end up like a Burbank, California situation.
And again, I think this is a great time to talk about it. We don't have anything there. We're gonna put that restriction on somebody. Now's the best time to do it, so.
And I would think that any business locating in that area would be geared towards the airports close by. There's a reason they're gearing in that area, so. I can't imagine they would be anti-signing the navigation agreement at that point because they're.
By far.
The board just approved the navigation easement on Tuesday to the northwest, and the developer requested the applications of actually.
They have a lot more than we do.
Well, we will work on that and bring it back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much
you.
for your time. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Item number 6, welcome guests and public comment. Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate you participating in local government. We'll go ahead and open up the dais for anybody who would like to address council, and we'll give you a 3-minute time limit. This will be for non-agenda items, and we can't take action on those items tonight since they're not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item that's in the consent agenda, now would be the time as well. So
I'm just gonna step forward and.
can you say your name?
Yes, I certainly can.
Come on, you know the drill.
Kate Baldwin, 4250 R57 Highway, just outside of the city of Norwalk. I am here in no official capacity. I've worked for the school district for the past several years, and I am here just as soon to be former public servant of Norwalk Schools, but just to thank the city council and all of the city employees for just years and years of cooperation. And I mean that with sincerity. Trust me, it was a nasty evening to come out. But I didn't want to miss this opportunity to thank everyone here. And I just looked at everybody, if I start naming, but Jeremy, Mike and Tony and Tim and Greg and Officer Chriswell, and I can just go on and on, as well as the public officials, about the cooperation that's been extended to the school district over the past several years, the cooperative agreements we've had. That truly is not something, I think it's unique to Norwalk, and it speaks highly of the residents and the citizens in the community of Norwalk. Had the opportunity to work with Tom previously before he joined the city council, now mayor. But at any rate, this has been a true blessing to the school district and me personally, to have those relationships, and they go beyond relationships, they go into friendships. And so each and every one of you, I want to give you a humble thanks. And I have every reason to believe that will continue as the city grows. It's exciting to see the city grow, and I know it takes a lot of effort from you folks as volunteers to see that happen. And so I just, again, you should be very proud of the work you do. And we're just glad to have that relationship with the school district. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Kate.
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
Congratulations on a
Thank
great
you.
retirement.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a committee she'd like to.
No rest for the wicked.
Anybody else like to address council tonight? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move on. So item number 7. It's our consent agenda. Tonight we have expenditures. There's tax abatements. We have December 1st, 2020 minutes of the regular city council meeting. We have renewal of Class C retail alcohol license for China Dragon. A renewal of Class C retail alcohol license for 804 Main. We have resolution setting the schedule and location of Norwalk City Council meetings for 2023. We have a resolution officially naming publications for the city of Norwalk for calendar year 2023. A resolution setting a date of meeting at which it is proposed to approve a development agreement with Norwalk JV 22 LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. That's south of Delaware on the certified site 2.0 property. We have a resolution approving statutory end date for Legacy Colonial Meadows Norwalk Business Center, SMBC, tax increment financing collections. See, we're getting rid of one, Kate. But resolution setting dates involved with the community cleanup event for 2023. A resolution to approve pay estimate number 8 and change order number 5 to Sternquist Construction for Sunset Drive, Iowa Highway 28 and North Avenue Intersection Improvements Project. We have a resolution accepting the certificate of completion for Great Western Trail Phase 2 and approve final pay estimate to Herberger Construction. Let's see, we have a resolution to appoint a member and alternate member to the Polk County 911 Service Board. A resolution approving Mid-American Energy Sponsorship Agreement for City Building Plaza in Norwalk Central. We have a resolution approving starting wage for newly hired circulation supervisor Christina Olson. We have some correspondence and monthly reports. Can I get a motion?
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Livingston. I'm going to give the second to Cool. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
I just had a comment. Oh, sorry. That's okay. I read this late today. Wayne isn't here. I noticed on the collection day, the spring cleanup. Wayne talked to the chamber. Maybe he did it with somebody like after the Cinda. But you're still gonna have a conflict with Run Norwalk, because Run Norwalk is May 13th, which is the Saturday before everybody's supposed to put their stuff on the curb. So that's the garage sale weekend, which is what the chamber was trying to avoid, having Run Norwalk on the same weekend that people were putting this stuff out at the curb. So they'd have to run around and have the garage sales. So I'm sure it's too late because I know he's got to work with the contractors to pick a good date. But maybe next year. It has to be, you're trying to avoid the garage sale date.
And we'll make note of that and talk with him. I mean, at minimum, like you said, it's probably too late at this point, but for next year to be more aware of that point.
Yeah, well, he was aware of it because he said he talked to the chamber. I just don't think they were thinking about the garage sale aspect of it.
Should have it a week after the garage sale, so whatever doesn't sell, you can just move it.
Well, and that's, yeah. All right, that's all. Sorry.
Lindsay?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 7N. Resolution appointing representatives to various boards and commissions for calendar year 2023. There's a change in here. We're gonna put Stephanie on the Purple Heart Highway. So that's the only change. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion Cool, seconded by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7N is a resolution appointing City of Norwalk representation to the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're going to change that name to Stephanie. Motion by Livingston. Second by Baker. Lindsay, go ahead and call roll.
Councilmember Cool.
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 7O is resolution appointing City of Norwalk representation to the Metro Waste Authority's Board of Directors. This is going to be a change to Brian Baker. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Reva, seconded by Cool. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. All right, item 8. We have old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is a public hearing regarding a rezoning request for 1305 Sunset Drive to establish an infill PUD. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:35 PM. Luke, I'll let you drive this one.
Thank you, sir. So this request is at 1305 Sunset. It is the property that is directly south of the recently constructed Jones Dental Building. It's an older structure. Current property owner is looking to do some expansions to it. And with the shape of the lot and the current building, how it sits on the lot, it's, kind of hamstrung with its ability to expand. So this PUD functionally just sets new setbacks for the lots. It keeps a 25-foot setback on the front. The south side yard setback is 20 feet, and then it sets the north and rear yard setback, so the north and west, as 0. So it gives them a lot of flexibility to kind of build to the north and to the west. I sent Luke another kind of snapshot, just trying to illustrate kind of where that area is at on the property and where that expansion will likely occur. So that's really where we're at with it. We don't have any concrete plans in yet for exactly what that expansion will look like. I believe they're right now talking about only going 2 feet from the property. But we wrote it as 0 to give some flexibility there with how it might shake out with their development. So that's the kind of area you're looking at, where that expansion might be.
Yeah, so I know with the property to the north, I don't know if it was required or if we requested to put in a wall between the development and the residents to the back. Would we require something like that on this as well?
Because it's a new or an existing commercial development, I don't know that our buffer requirement would trigger with an expansion. There's probably a certain level of expansion where we would say that's big enough, or certainly if it was tore down, we would require something. But with it being expansion of that building, I'd say it's non-conforming to the buffer, and we likely wouldn't make them meet that requirement.
I've got a question, I guess. At the P and Z meeting, the property owner to the north, the representative had some concerns that they shared about nearness with that 0 limit. And how it may adversely affect their ability to expand or, do things with their property.
Correct.
Was that able to be resolved, or how?
So you're correct. I did write a little bit in our staff report about that. There was some discussion at P&Z about if that, we do have an active plan we're working through on an expansion of the dental building. So there was some concern that this getting closer to their property would require them to have additional building requirements. The setback on their property to the south is 10 foot. So they would maintain a maximum 10-foot separation from that property line, and it wouldn't require anything new. I did talk to our building official. If they came back and they wanted to come closer to that lot line, then we currently allow closer than that 10 feet. So the building ends up being 5 feet apart. there weren't any real big changes to the building code required there as far as firewalls and things, according to our building official. So
So since the buffer area is measured from the lot line, not between the buildings,
mhm.
it wouldn't have a material effect on the property to the north. They're governed by distance from the lot line.
Yeah, there's no, from a buffer standpoint, there's no buffer that's required between both of those properties because
Okay, but distance wise,
But distance wise, as far as built distance from the building, their current setbacks would give them plenty of room to expand their
all right,
expansion
so,
plans.
so whatever they did here would have zero effect on
Yeah.
that property. Thank you.
Other questions? Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments?
We have not.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:40 PM. Item 8B is the first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 1305 Sunset Drive to the 1305 Sunset Drive infill planned unit development. So we just had the public hearing on this. Luke, you have anything additional? Talk to the council about?
No, happy to answer any other questions. I believe we've got applicants here as well. We've got questions for them, so.
Just got a question on the stormwater piece.
Mhm.
Are they required on site to manage their own, or does it all just roll into the city system? Because with the expanded footprint of the building, I would look at more.
I've not done an analysis of that. With our new stormwater code that we approved a couple of meetings ago, we do have a threshold for new impervious surface. So whenever we get their plans in, that threshold will either trigger it or it won't.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's 10,000 square foot. So if we're adding more than 10,000 square foot to the building or the site in general, because it's not just the building, then it triggers it. Anything's less than that, it doesn't. So.
They'll be, I'm sorry. They'll be required to pay the parking lot too, then.
Yes, I believe Elliot has talked with them about.
So that may change, I mean, they need to, we'll need to measure that.
Well, yeah, we'll need to see what new, and gravel is technically considered impervious surface as well. So,
Oh, is it?
yeah,
Okay.
if they're just replacing the gravel with pavement, it probably doesn't add anything, but it's, you know.
All right.
There'll probably be a nominal.
That's a site plan,
measurement there.
site plan thing.
Yes.
My only other question is just on that north side of the property. Is that water detention on the other side?
Yes.
Okay. And is that affect, this is just me asking, does that affect that use of that area? Where the property owners would belong? You know what I'm saying? Like, they've got a water detention basin. If I build a building right up to that edge of that water detention basin, well, detention, right?
Mhm.
Is it gonna cause problems with them?
With the basin itself.
Yeah.
I believe the basin's high water mark is far enough from the property line that it should be fine.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Comments? Any other public comment?
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Riva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8C is public hearing on proposed amendment to the Norwalk Urban Renewal Area. This is for the property south of Delaware on the certified site 2.0 property. It's called Norwalk JV 22 LLC. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:43 PM. Holly, I'm gonna let you talk about this one.
So a local development group called Norwalk JV 22 purchased 19 acres, 20 acres of the Dunn farmland just south of Delaware and south of Michael Foods. And they have an agreement to purchase another 20 acres immediately west of that parcel here in January. And so they have a plan down there called the Dunn Industrial Park, and they've already started some site work and they're working towards that. They have several users already lined up for their first two facilities. They'll have two 20,000 square foot facilities that will start on the northeastern part of that parcel. And they'll continue to develop to the south and to the west over time. But in order to be able to utilize tax increment financing to pay them back for public infrastructure that they will be building through this lot, north and south, there's a public street that will be built that will connect all of that future development land together in our certified site in the future. In order to be able to utilize that TIP, we have to create a new urban renewal area. Since this is brand new land to the city of Norwalk, it was recently annexed, then we have to go through this procedure to establish the urban renewal area and then a TIF district. And then we can move forward to the development agreement. So it's part of the procedure.
Questions? Okay, Lindsay, have we received any written or oral comments on this item?
We have not.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:44 PM. Item 8D is resolution to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa and approve urban renewal plan amendment for the Norwalk urban renewal area. So this is again the Norwalk JV22 LLC property. So we just had a public hearing on that property. Need to have council declare a necessity exists and to establish the urban renewal area. Oh, anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, any questions, discussion from council or public comment?
Second.
Motion by Lester, seconded by Livingston. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8E is first reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the December 22 addition to the Norwalk urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa. So this ordinance change is to allow the city to use TIF funds. Holly or Jean, do you have anything additional for council on this item?
No.
Any discussion, questions, comments from council? Or public comment? Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Reba. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8F is resolution deleting property from the Norwalk urban renewal area. So this is for Norwalk Central and the Diligent land. So this resolution is going to remove a majority of the Norwalk Central from our urban renewal area. This is primarily being done so there's new infrastructure that we found out about that's going to be built in that area that's not necessarily put in yet or something like that. Anyway, I'll let Holly get that in here in a second. So we need to delete the current URA and so that we can add it back in the future so that they reset their clock. Go ahead, Holly. Help me out on this.
That's awesome. So yes, you mostly have that correct. The development agreement that we have with Diligent from March established this whole area, Norwalk Central, so that we could utilize the TIP from their new commercial developments, the new value from that to pay them back for all of the infrastructure network in Norwalk Central. So along the way, as we're constructing everything, there are 2 stormwater projects that need to be done. They would have always needed to be done. We knew about them. It was just more of a timing thing that eventually the city would have had to implement these 2 stormwater projects, but Diligent agreed to go ahead and do it for us since they're already mobilized out there to save everybody time and money. And they would kind of front the cost on that as long as we'd be able to pay them back with TIP over time and add it to their existing max TIP amount that we'll pay over 20 years if it takes that within their timeframe with their new value that they'll be adding to the area. So with that, anytime you make any sort of an amendment to a TIP agreement, you have to amend the urban renewal area. So we are extracting the land that is not developed on within Norwalk Central, which is basically the remaining Hughes Century Crossing retail land. So we had to carve out what's already been built on or purchased by another group. And then that's what's coming out so that we can reset their 20-year clock so they can get the full amount of time to be able to get their payback if it takes that long. So, yeah.
All right, what questions you got for discussion? Public comment? All right.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Baker, second by Cool. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
No.
Baker.
Yes.
Riva.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, motion carried. Item 8G. It's first and possibly more readings of an ordinance deleting property from the tax increment financing district for the Norwalk urban renewal area of the city of Norwalk, Iowa, pursuant to section 40319 of the Code of Iowa. So we just passed a resolution to remove the property from the URA. We now need to remove that area from the TIF district, which requires the ordinance change. Holly and Jean, is that right? I screwed the other one up pretty bad, so I got that. All right, any discussion, questions for council? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Since this is a removal, thought we might as well just get it all done tonight. I'd entertain a motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Riva. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
No.
All right, motion carries. Item 8H is a resolution officially naming depositories for the city of Norwalk for the calendar year 2023. This resolution names City State Bank, True Bank, Iowa Public Agency Investment Trust, Luena Savings Bank, and Express Bill Pay as our official depositories and sets limits on the maximum amount we can have on deposit at each. Gene, anything to add?
Just that the city annually approves this resolution where we put our money, or from time to time, if we borrow money and we need to up the amounts. In requesting that we do up the amounts for City State Bank and True Bank from 50 to 55 million and 15 to 20 million respectively. We may need to borrow some money in the next 12 months based on our budget discussions coming up in the next couple of months. So just might have some projects that we need some more money.
Questions, discussion, comment from council? Any public comment?
Motion. Go for it.
You're fine.
This
Wait, I
this
should
is
just see if
separate
there's
from
public.
the consent agenda so that I can abstain.
Yes.
Yes. So got a motion by Livingston,
Second.
second by Baker. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston, Lester,
Same.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8I is resolution accepting infrastructure and approving the final plat of Marketplace Townhomes at Echo Valley Plat 1. So this is the area between 1908 Draft House and Alice's Place Apartments. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so this is the final plat again for the townhomes there. This creates 16 townhome units across a few buildings in that first phase. Infrastructure wise, the utilities, water and sewer are public. The street is private. We have done all the testing and inspection of the public infrastructure, so that's good to go. They are still working to get the private drive paved. So we're looking for approval of this now, but we will hold on to it in the office to release it until they do that paving and Tony Blizzy gets a second chance to go out there and look at paving around manholes and that type of stuff. So just line this up for us to be able to release it once that work is done.
Which is the private drive? Works
Or
or both?
yeah, all the new things here are created are private. So Hayden and Brooks.
Oh, yeah, they both say private. Once Luke zoomed in, I could read. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Baker. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yeah.
Riva.
All right, motion carries. Item 8J, resolution to request approval to extend the stormwater pipe in the right of way at 400 Beardsley Street. So Luke, I'm just gonna let you take this one.
All right, when we did the trail project, and I'm handling this for Robin this evening, she couldn't be here. When we did the trail project along Beardsley, zoom in so I can explain a little bit more thoroughly. The driveway the driveway located along Beardsley on the south side. When we put in the new trail, the elevations within that, within the ditch changed quite a bit, made some pretty steep surfaces. The property owner felt like that didn't quite match up to what was there before. It was pretty minor change to add a section of pipe on. So we went to a contractor. Robin received a few quotes. And ultimately, I think it was around $7,000 estimate to add that extension and then smooth out the surface. So it's a little bit closer to what it was before. And then also associated with this, there's going to be a little bit of dirt work. There's some standing water just on the other side of that culvert. So the engineers and Robin are working with the contractor, a different contractor, the one that originally did the work, to get that little duck pond out of there.
So this is only the driveway to the east
Correct.
that we discussed.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I believe that there have been several projects in the city where reconstruction or rehabilitation of certain parts of the destruction, mostly involving ground and grass, have been less than satisfactory. And we have not gone back and assumed the responsibility at the city's expense to fix those things. I don't understand why this is.
Yesterday, Robin came into my office and she said, council's probably going to have that very question. And you would be 100% correct. I'm going to zoom into the area and give you the main reason why we as staff felt it was at least comfortable to bring this forward for council consideration. This particular property owner, we obtained easements. Let me see if I can draw on here. Disruption of work throughout this entire area of their property. They worked with a contractor that put in that sewer pipe. That was a relationship the city had established with the developer. We did the development agreement to run that new main through that location that opened up almost, I would say, over 1,000 acres of developable area. Property owner was a good team player with us. Certainly had a lot of disruption for the amount of time they did the work. This is a request that he made afterwards. You're absolutely right. In many situations, we would not be doing this, but because of everything that happened with that property, we felt like this was something at least worthy of bringing forward to council for consideration.
And I appreciate that, and I respect that. But I would counter that 98% of the city population has been easy to work with and cooperative in reconstruction or redevelopment of areas of their property, and still we haven't rehabilitated. And right, if I understand you, right, this is.
It's kind of hard to see.
So this blue thing is where there was that great disruption, but we're talking about way over here, right? This is the driveway,
Correct.
which has nothing to do with this, other than this is demonstrative of why we should fix it, because they were so good to us then.
You are stating that accurately.
Okay, just want to make sure.
The builder that actually created the trail for us, they built all that according to the standards that we required, right? They were consistent with our plan.
I don't believe so, because there is standing water periodically in that location. I'm not aware how long it takes it to drain out, but generally speaking, in a ditch, you're going to design the grading so that you don't have these areas of ponding water.
Okay, so what they did may not necessarily be consistent with what we asked for.
That's my gut. I'm not an engineer. The contractor is coming back to do the repair to smooth that out. So even if council doesn't take action or chooses not to do the culvert, there will still be some grading work to make sure that that drains out appropriately.
So what you're thinking, or the reason you're bringing this forward is because they're gonna be there anyway doing the grading. And this is an opportune time to do this. Or is that a completely different company?
Two different contractors.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with whether or not they met our standards.
Right.
This is just something that we would do to be a nice person.
You could put it that way, yes.
So if in fact, this area, little section wasn't built according to our plans, and that's what's caused the flooding problem, why wouldn't the entity that put the trail in fix it?
They are.
Pay for it.
Again, talking about two different things.
Right.
One, the one really that is the city expense, as I understand it, I don't mean to speak for you, is changing the grade for mowing purposes. The other part that the contractor's gonna fix is the pooling of water. Completely two different issues, as I understand it.
That is correct.
So if we extend this pipe 400 feet. How many feet, 40 feet? I don't remember what you said.
I think it was just one section of pipe. I want to say it was maybe only an 8 or 10.
8 feet according to the state.
This is short.
Does that speed the water up and cause water issues then with the creek and outflow down there?
Yeah, not an engineer, but
Just asking.
I
because
don't believe
It's a
so.
concern of mine.
for 8 feet of corrugated pipe underneath, I don't believe that it would. Steve, your engineering license has expired.
Yeah, I'm qualified.
And I apologize, Wayne couldn't be here this evening either. If there's some additional information you'd like us to obtain or to have a little bit more time to think about it, there really is no urgency to taking action on this immediately if you wanted to wait. Or if you're ready to make a decision, by all means.
I don't even wait. I understand the situation. I understand the issues. I understand the request.
What is the total amount of dollars? $7,700, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, right, for me, it's not the money so much as there have been countless other projects where things have not been restored the way they should have been. And the city has not gone in to pay for it because while I understand that it's an inconvenience that he can't mow the property on his mower, there's not an obstruction. There's not a deformity in his property. There's none of those things. And there are plenty of properties that were left, like when we did the road reconstructions, there were plenty of properties that were left not well graded, not well seeded, not well, any of those things, and that's not being replaced. And so to me, this is really an equity thing and precedent thing.
It's probably nice to be nice, but I don't know if it's fair to all the other taxpayers that have to pay for it. Cause we're in the business of setting precedent. Right? And so if we're willing this to be nice, then which would really be nice. The next person could walk up and knock on our door and say, hey, this is dinked up over here, but the price tag is gonna be 25,000. Well, all of a sudden, does this become a bad thing because of the price tag? And so I think I probably intended to agree, that we probably need to think about when and how we be nice, you know what I mean? There's gotta be a little more to it than just, it's a nice thing to do.
I think part of it is remember he was very helpful to us.
As, again, as our 95% of the citizens in our community who don't get this kind of monetary city response.
So
So I'm not disagreeing with you. about that. This is not about whether or not he was a good partner in all of this.
I'm gonna ask my question in a different way. So. Say the trail was built to plan. When it was engineered. Somebody, the engineer. Didn't realize that when they put this trail in, that, I mean, I assume the guy was able to mow the property before the trail. And now he can't. So it was only the installation of the trail. That caused this problem. So. My question is, why did the engineer not foresee this? It just. I'm inclined to vote yes, just because if the city made something worse. Then.
Yes.
But
Yes.
would a $250 push mower be cheaper than a $7,700 culvert? Yes.
Stephanie, to go back, so when you asked me if things were designed appropriately, my main focus was the ponding water.
Right.
So that may have been designed and engineered appropriately, contractor may not have graded it correctly. In terms of the culvert and it being a steeper slope on the edges, I do believe that was engineered appropriately and it was done to a slope that meets our requirements.
Right, but it's
But
just.
that's different than what the property owner feels.
He can't mow it on his riding mower. He needs to get off and use a push mower. And that's, I think, the issue.
Now, I don't,
Generalizing it, but I feel like that's what. the
right,
issue
I'm not
is.
sure if those are the facts or not.
This is me growing up that I had to push mow part of the ditch because it was steeper than what the riding mower needed. I hate to say it, but that's what it was. So.
Any further discussion? Or any public comment? Anybody want to make a motion? A second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second. We will move on. Item 8A. Final reading of an ordinance amending chapter 50, 51, 52, 135, 136, 151, 165, 175A, 175E, and 175A of the Norwalk Municipal Code to update infraction violations of various city nuisance and zoning codes. So this ordinance change is to update some infraction violations and zoning codes and a gazillion different chapters. They're all listed in the packet. Luke Paris is here for any questions that you might have. Or I would enter, or any public comment, or accept other comment.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
All right, motion carries. Item 8L is the first and possibly more readings of an ordinance adopting the Norwalk, Iowa Municipal Code 2022. So this is an ordinance change that we do every year called codification, and it approves ordinances adopted in 2022 to be added to the city code. Lindsay, did I get that right?
You did.
All right, awesome. Anything you want to add?
The only I guess I would just add the only reason that I put first and possibly more is I try to wait to the very last meeting to do this, so we can catch everything that we possibly can up until the point. Where we're talking. Better that.
Uh-huh. All right. Any discussion or questions from council or public comment?
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Livingston and a second by Lester. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So this is a, go for it.
Motion to waive second and third reading.
Thank you. Motion by Livingston, seconded by Lester to waive the second and third readings. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Reba.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item number 9 is council inquiry staff updates. Gene Kelly is here to talk with an impact update, and there was a lot in the packet.
Yeah, last council meeting, you guys approved the impact contract, but asked for additional information based on maybe how the numbers were arrived at. So I talked to Brandon Pollard. He's in their finance department. And he gave me, I think, some pretty decent information. They have a database that looks at basically location and then all these characteristics within that location. Age, income, employment status, housing situation, health insurance sources and things of that nature. It was pretty thorough. I appreciated the information that he provided. I did not know they had that, so it's probably good that we know that and feel confident in those numbers. They did ask for 8,000 last year, and the number did go down to 4,000. And basically, they had some federal funding that was available, ARPA, COVID, whatever. So they adjusted their numbers based on that. I do believe next year, if the numbers remain steady, they probably will go back to that $8,000 request.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or?
All right. You got anything else?
Oh, yes. Finance Committee reviewed our CIP, and I'm gonna get that sent out to you guys next week, so you have plenty of time to review that. And worked on finalizing the budgets with our department heads over the last couple weeks. And we'll, I believe January 17th is our first meeting.
All right. Cool. Thank you. Luke. So,
Just have a couple of quick items. Did a presentation, a city update at the annual chamber luncheon today. I think that was well received. Had a lot of good, what was that?
Smartly done.
Well, thank you. Well, that's because Holly wrote half of it. But it was a lot of good information for them, telling about a lot of new commercial projects. The bad news I had to provide is our housing starts were at such a minimum number, but certainly our commercial was going strong, so that was great. And there was one other thing I was gonna, I lost it. I'm sure I'll remember it once we're done. That's it.
well, I remember it before it gets back to me, but it can let me know. All right, Jackie.
I don't have anything, thank you.
All right, Brian.
It was a good turnout today. They said 84 people. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's all.
All right,
Good
Lindsay.
crowd.
Just one thing, for those of you that don't know, I'm attending the Drake CPM course and I just finished my 4th month of that. It's been super interesting and I just had my first exam and passed, so that's super exciting. Graduation will be in December of 2023. Certified public course. So it's been fun. And have a good Christmas. You too.
And I just remembered,
Okay,
Lindsay helped me with putting together our update for the quarterly goal update for council. So I think, Mayor, we talked about doing just a short work session in January,
yes.
that we would go over that update and let council know where we're at on our 2020 vision, which I'm happy to say, a lot of good news in there. We're making significant progress, so.
All right, thanks. Holly.
Of course, Lindsay passed. Yes, so in January and February, we'll be pretty busy again with more urban renewal area amendments. I love TIF and the laws that surround it. It's super fun. But it all leads to great things. We'll have 2 development agreements coming up in January and February for 2 hotels. They're both under contract with their land. And then we'll have one, we won't have a development agreement, but there is a large convenience center under contract for their land as well. And all of these are in the Norwalk central area or very nearby. And we'll also be starting the certified site program here in about 2 weeks. So that's when the state launches it, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll get accepted.
No, I apologize. I just thought of this. So, but would you please send me an email on why TIF is important to cities?
Sure.
And the audience is state legislators,
Yes.
okay? And I'm gonna forward that on because Stan's asked me a couple times.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'll see.
We talked on Saturday that they need to get their hands off TIF.
It's on every session, every year. Someone's trying to mess with it.
So we need to just give him some ammunition as to why they need to keep their hands off TIF.
Sure, will do.
All right, thank you. Chief.
Just briefly, tomorrow at 2 p.m., Officer Sauer and Officer Allen will graduate from the Police Academy, Academy number 306 from my LEA. It'll be at the Freedom Center at Camp Dodge, and I will be attending. And Sunday, one of them starts their field training, and Monday, the other one. I don't know which one. I'll find out on Monday who's there.
All right.
Anyways, that's the first step in getting them trained on the road. And 4 months from now, they'll be done field training and be out on their own. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Chief.
Nothing, thank you.
Gary.
Nothing tonight.
Lou.
Permits still on the slow side, just 2 single family in November. We did have 2 commercial site plan or building permits issued though, so that's good. So that was the scooter site and our own core building, so we gave ourselves a permit, so.
That was good of us.
And thanks for Gene for working through how that finances of that all work. Code enforcement wise, we're kind of out of the mowing season, not quite into the shovel season, so mainly getting people parking in their cars in their yard type stuff. But we do kind of expect that, especially with the weather today, some complaints coming in about icy sidewalks and that type of stuff. So we'll stay on top of those. Travis, who we hired this fall for our code enforcement position, also is our rental housing inspector. And so he's kind of gotten his feet under himself and is really starting to reorganize that program and get it off the ground a little better. I think he's looking at scheduling around 50 inspections at a time. So I know he's got his first batch of stuff ready to go out. So that's good. And then site plan wise, we got a lot of stuff we're reviewing in the office right now. An expansion I mentioned earlier to the Jones Dental site, a potential expansion at Norwalk Ready Mix, the 2 spec buildings at the Dunn Industrial Park off of Delaware, a commercial development north of Gordon that has been talked about a lot, but I think Holly'd get mad at me if I said its name. So although if you want to do a request for information act for my office, I'm not sure I couldn't tell you.
Green logo.
So that's the thing. But that's progressing along. All these are things I would expect to come to council probably by February. Fairway Store at Chatham, Champion Express Car Wash north of City State Bank, another commercial development that I don't know if we can announce names on at Cherry and Highway 28. Next phase of Holland Point, and then the townhomes and condos at Hackney Hills. And then beyond those that we're actively reviewing, we've had significant number of pre-app meetings and just discussions about properties and stuff. So lots of interesting things still. Just wish people would start building houses again.
They can hold off for a little while.
Catch our ratios up, commercial.
That's
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You should say that.
It's gonna help
That's
with
your
that.
goal. Thanks, Luke.
I didn't know we'd need recession.
Yeah. Ed.
I'm glad that young man has his feet under him before he deals with those icy sidewalks. That's a good thing. I was just thinking, Chief, when you were talking about the academy number and those young people graduating from it. My academy was 13.
Yeah, mine was 33.
Anyway, I have nothing else more, I think.
All right. David. Steph. The only thing I have tonight is just to wish everybody, like Lindsay, wish everybody Merry Christmas. Enjoy your days off and your time with family. And with that said, we will go ahead and go to item number 10, is a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 2151I. Excuse me, to evaluate professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session. Is this a valid reason to go to closed session? Yes, it is. All right, so can I get a motion to move into closed session?
Motion.
And a second. Okay, so motion by Cool, seconded by Reba. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Thanks.
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston. Yes, Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva.
Motion carries. So we are out of open session at 7:18 PM.
Oh, see you again.
And we will go ahead and have a brief recess. All right, go into closed